Welcome to Rocket Ship, the home of epic React Native content. I'm Simon Grimm, creator of Galaxies.dev, and today we're talking about Expo SDK 54. And because I'm pretty sure you kind of like my opinions, and I could talk a lot about Expo SDK 54, I brought someone else on to talk with me. So, welcome, Beto. Thanks for joining the third time on the podcast.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Simon.
So I think I looked at my notes, and the last two times, like the first time you worked in Atlanta, and the last time, I don't know, but this time you actually worked for Expo. So we might get some cool insights from you, right?
Yes, I'm here to tell you everything.
How long have you been with Expo at this point?
1 year, exactly,
Oh,
actually.
congratulations. Nice celebration
Thank you.
party here.
Yes.
And what are you currently mostly focused on at Expo? I know nobody has a fixed job at Expo, but
Yeah, mostly creating content, actually, like videos, tutorials, getting out the news of what the team is doing. So I get to try new things right away, and it's been super fun. Also work on docs internally, support, helping devs that are stuck, helping enterprise customers as well. And recently, actually, a fun project that I was working on is trying out Expo Go on the new Quest, Meta Quest 3,
oh
to
yeah.
develop apps. So that's been fun as well.
Yeah, I just saw a tweet today. We should talk about this at the end. I don't have any of those devices, but maybe we can quickly talk about that at the end. You also, by
Yep.
the way, recently created a very successful tool called Snap AI, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a
Uh,
side project. I
how
created
many
it, I
stars does
think,
it have?
at the moment, 1.1K, which is crazy.
Nice. Crazy.
It's crazy. Can't believe it. But,
Yeah, I didn't
it's one
expect it in
of,
the beginning. It was like a cool tool, but yeah. I mean, it's great.
yeah,
I hate making app icons.
I don't know what happened because it had only like 300 stars. And for those who don't know, Snap AI is a CLI tool that allows you to create icons in your terminal. So you type in your Expo project, you open your terminal and say npx Snap AI icon, and then a to do app icon. You pass a prompt, and it will generate an icon and put it inside your assets folder. It will be 1024 by 1024, hopefully without a background. We also have I added actually a flag background. You can pass transparent to that. And a couple days ago, one of my friends he contributed to a new flag called style. So you can pass style like a game or minimalistic or
Ah,
something
cool.
like that. And based on that, you can now simplify your prompt, like to do app like a game, or joystick game style, or pixel style. And it will output an icon that you can use in seconds, right? So that's pretty cool.
But there's one challenge for you. What about the iOS glass icon and the composer, the new icon format?
Yeah, that's actually true. And also, if you want to use the icon for Android, you need to modify it. So I actually created a video in my personal YouTube channel how to create an icon using Snap AI. Basically, the idea is that you generate your icon without a background. So you only have the PNG asset. And then you can use a Figma template that it's available in Figma, published by Expo. So you can just drag the icon, put it in there in the safe areas for iOS and Android. And even you can reutilize it for a splash screen and then export it. Yeah, it's a little bit of extra work, but it's still doable. You can then drag the same asset on the icon composer application from Xcode 26 and
Yeah,
yeah, and then export it. It will work. By the
nice.
way, Expo 54 now supports the new .icon format, so you can just pass it directly for iOS.
Absolutely. Let's get into SDK 54. Maybe we start with a rough overview. So, could you give us first a general list of like the big topics
Yeah,
that's new in SDK 54, and then we like one by one go a bit deeper into each of them.
yeah. So this is a really exciting release. The team actually did a bunch of work, and the headlines I would say is React Native 81. uh, now comes precompiled, meaning that the build times, clean build times, are going to be faster. Are going to be faster in your project once you upgrade. You don't need to do anything else. It's enabled by default. So just upgrade and your build will be faster. In one of my tests, I was able to reduce build time by 50%. So that's huge gains for enterprise
So
customers.
that's
And
like when we do a pre-build of our application.
not the pre-built part, but the run iOS part.
Yeah. Okay.
This is only for iOS, by the way. Uh, Fun fact, Android is being precompiled for years now.
Yeah, I heard people like say, "Oh, why is iOS getting all the attention?" And somebody posted, "Well, it was already there for Android before."
Yeah, and if you're wondering why iOS is getting the attention, it's because of the new liquid glass design, and everyone is excited about it, or either you love it or hate it. Either way, you might be talking about it. And that's the other highlight in the SDK release. Now we support liquid glass with Expo UI, and also Expo Router version 6 comes with native tabs. So you can now have the liquid glass implementation, and on Android you'll get as well the material tabs native for Android as well. Looks nice. I was working actually yesterday on a project, and you can customize the background, the icons. It's easy to use. It's compatible with dark mode, and you likely delete a bunch of code that you have in your tabs, like custom icons. Um, Maybe you are using the background blur. Maybe you are passing haptics. You don't need to do that anymore. It's already built in the native tabs. So that's super exciting. So yeah, that's Liquid Glass, Expo Router version 6. Expo UI now is in beta for iOS. Again, we are going to support Android. I can hear everyone saying, "What about Android? What
Yeah.
about Jetpack Compose? How can I use SwiftUI in Android?" It's actually not possible. The way it works is that SwiftUI maps one to one. Expo UI maps one to SwiftUI, and SwiftUI is a UI framework that comes with its own styling, right? Like you'll see C stack, V stack, H stack, and if you want to change something, you have to pass something called modifiers. So you kind of have to be familiar with SwiftUI a little bit before using it with Expo. But the plan is to get it in a good point, solid point, so that you can use it. Maybe not for everything right now, but you can start adopting a couple things that previously would be painful to use, like a context menu or even a slider. Sometimes, yeah, you know this, Simon.
Yeah.
When you need a slider or you need a switch or a context menu, you have to go search npm and see if there's something that you can use, right?
Yeah. And we all know what happened with NPM over the last couple of days with all the attacks. So
All the hacking, right?
yeah.
And then you'll find sometimes good good packages. The React Native community is awesome, and we have many options, open source. And sometimes it will be frustrating. There are some errors. It's not maintained anymore. It's old. And the goal here is that you can just import from Expo UI whatever you need, like a calendar, a picker, a date picker, switch, context menu, you name it, and just use it natively for iOS, right? At the moment. And then we're actually working on a Jetpack Compose version that you can actually implement. Hopefully, in the next SDK release, we are going to release the beta version of Jetpack Compose. And
Nice.
then we can talk about unifying an API so that you can just write once and reutilize it and render everywhere. We're also talking about brainstorming some ideas for web. But yeah, that's the current state at the moment. I'm excited because it's fully native, fully compatible with the new design. And yeah, that's another headline.
Yeah, we're gonna get more into Expo UI. I definitely have some questions about that one as well.
Yep.
I think, yeah,
Another,
yeah. Oh,
yeah,
we have more headlines, please.
I was gonna say another big one might be that Android for Android now, React Native targets the API 36, and now we are using targeting as well the latest Android version, which is 16. And we have some goodies like H2H is now enabled by default. We have the new gesture, predictive back gesture, available as opt-in. It's not default yet, but it's going to be the default maybe next release. We have some work to do there, and yep, I think that's pretty much the big things. If you are curious about something else, we have a bunch of things in the changelog. We can maybe link in the description.
Definitely, yeah. I will definitely link the full changelog. I think we both also did like an update video about it. So everyone picks out like different priorities. I feel like you highlight maybe even something more from the perspective of being an Expo employee. I look at the stuff and I'm like, oh, this is interesting to me, and this and this and in between. So let's go through a couple of things. First of all, I just want to clarify, like when we say React Native 081 or something, it's kind of like, I mean, it's cool that this is an Expo SDK 54, but we can't really credit Expo for that, right? It's more like a React Native thing. Like you could have gotten the stuff from React Native anyway.
Well,
you know what I mean? I mean,
but
you're still working on that as well, like people from your team. So it's a bit complicated situation, I guess.
Yeah. So it's an effort team. Meta is maintaining React Native, right? And we have contributions from everyone. But I would say that in this case, the precompiled React Native, which is the headline of React Native 81, was actually introduced by an Expo team member, which is what's his name?
Yeah, I mean, in that case, it definitely totally makes sense that you kind of take a bit of credit for the cool stuff of SDK 54 and saying pre-built is new.
Yes.
And I found one thing about this. So you said it cut your build times by like 50%.
Yep.
I also heard people say that this is like a bit behind the scenes. This is important because at one point we have to move away from Cocoa pods to the Swift package manager, and therefore we should have more precompiled stuff. I think this is another reason why this happened. But at the moment, it's only, I think, React Native is only precompiled, right? So it's not like a huge amount of libraries is, and some people said like if you use reanimated or something else, your build time might still be quite long and you might not notice a huge improvement yet. Is that right?
By the way, the name of the guy who contributed the precompile is Christian Falch. He's
awesome job.
Yeah, he did it basically. So, and it's just React Native. It's just one library in your package JSON, right? You have a bunch of dependencies there. Only React Native is precompiled. The goal, of course, is to in the future precompile the most used ones. Obviously, we want to precompile all the Expo packages and reanimate it. But that is going to take some time because this is like the first time that we're doing this, and we already found a couple bugs that we need to fix. I mean, Christian needs to fix. But yeah, the goal is later, maybe if we precompile all the Expo modules and then reanimate it in React Native. So that's going to be blazingly fast.
So that is like work in progress, but you have no idea how long that will take.
It's not work in progress yet, but we are thinking about it.
Okay. So that means, probably not in SDK 55, maybe not even in 56.
Maybe in 56 we can.
What's your current timeline? Do you do like 2 SDKs per year?
We are trying to do 2 or 3 per year. Actually, we're targeting maybe our next release 55, maybe at the beginning of next year.
I think last year, was it in December? I can't remember. I don't know.
Yeah. So for the next one, it's going to be like in January, maybe February, 55.
Okay.
And that's actually, good. I was watching a talk yesterday from the Meta team in the Call Stack conference. They were saying that they are actually planning on releasing frequently, small changes frequently. And that's really exciting as well.
Yeah, they had a cool talk at the React Universe conference. I think they already had a lot of releases in this year, And they're doing like every other month by now because they have
Yeah.
like such a cool release process that's really fast for them. Does Expo
hmm
have any plans to like keep up with that? Because that always means like the Expo SDK that's out is like
hmm
two React Native versions behind at some point.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, we don't have plans to kind of like release a new SDK every 2 months
yeah.
at the moment. But you can, if you really need a feature, you can always just try it out and see if it works.
I mean, in many
Otherwise, you can
cases,
just
you
get a
released a
release.
post like you can already install this with the current Expo SDK, or we have like a
Yeah.
nightly build or something.
hmm So we release an SDK with a specific React Native version because we test against that version and we know it
Okay.
works. But
Okay.
if you install a different one and you know it works, maybe you can use that one. But it's not like we are telling you that you should use that one. We didn't test against that one, so
Makes sense.
probably
Makes
we
sense.
won't fix any issues until we get to that point.
Okay. So let's come back to SDK 54. So we talked about build times. I'm not going into in the order of the release article. Let's first now talk about Expo Router version 6. I think when I first installed the SDK, it kind of showed a beta of version 6. Now it's like stable version 6 of Expo Router, right?
hmm Yeah, it's stable version 6, but the native tabs are under a flag called unstable. So when you import the native tabs, you have to import from unstable native tabs. And that's because this is an experimental feature at the moment and we might change the API. But you can, from day zero, right now, you can start migrating or testing the look of your app. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the native tabs. I tried it out. I have the iOS 26 simulator and then the glass tabs. It feels really cool. Just today, I also saw that you can also combine this with like having another search icon in the bar and something.
Yeah.
I tried it out. It was a bit too much for me because I haven't even used iOS 26 yet. So I
Mm,
might have to first get into like the pattern on my iPhone device before I really work on it. But it's cool that we can just like do it on Android.
yeah.
Yeah, I have always problems with the icons on Android, but I saw that there's now a fallback to use like a vector icon, and then from like the Expo vector icon set, you can use an icon on Android if you want to. It's not recommended, but I always had a hard time figuring out which icons I can use in Android. I couldn't even find like a home icon. Is there like a home icon on Android, or am I just like?
Are you talking about drawables for
Yeah,
Android?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they have many options. My advice here would be just use a vector icon and you can pass a vector icon to the native tabs. That's actually what I do for my
I
Android
see.
apps.
Ah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably smart. I should do that as well. Uh,
But if you're
um,
in a hurry, you can just, there is actually a list of drawables that you can see and see if you can find something, I don't know, useful.
yeah,
And
like an
has a
exclamation
name.
mark or like an airplane or.
hmm I
It's-
think they have like a calendar, but yeah, it's not super long list like San Francisco symbols from Apple, for example.
so one question I had about this, I previously used the native bottom tabs package from I think Oscar from.
hmm
He's probably
Oscar,
working
yeah,
at CallStack or Software Bench. That's one of those, I guess.
Callstack. He works at
CallStack,
Callstack.
yeah, CallStack. And that package pretty much gives you this the same effect. Is that
hmm
package still required in the future, or like if I have the native tabs, I don't really need it anymore, right?
Yeah, you don't need it anymore. Expo Router implemented its own. Well, it didn't actually. It's using React Native screens under the hood. Software mentioned they maintain React Native screens, which provides the primitives for native implementation, and they recently added native tabs. So Expo Router is leveraging that through React Native screens.
So
Yeah,
the whole package of Oscar is obsolete.
I guess no. It depends if you are not using Expo Router, for example, and you're not using
Right.
React Native screens, you can use it. I think they are. I don't know. Maybe they are going to use it for something else. But yeah, I don't think it's irrelevant, I've seen that he's updating it and adding
Indeed, yeah.
features as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's probably good to have a solution if you don't use Expo Router, which, I mean, still, I don't have the numbers. Do you have any numbers on like the React Native system? How many new apps use Expo Router and how many just use React Navigation? Like, do you know the split?
Hmm, that's a good question.
I don't know if I asked
I
Evan
don't
this
know,
before.
but
Because
I would say,
I mean, in all my videos, I use Expo Router and you probably do the same, right?
yeah, it's actually the default when you start a new
Right.
default application. And for what I've seen on X, many developers are like kind of liking it so far because Evan and the team has been adding a bunch of features like
Oh,
native
yeah.
tabs. Now we have API routes. You can add a middleware now if you need
Hmm.
authentication. Um, Not only that, you have like dynamic routes and many features like deep linking enabled by default,
RCs.
RC. So on top of that, if you actually want to just use React Native, we have an example that I myself added recently. If you want to just use React Navigation for whatever you're doing, you can just create a new Expo app, passing the example flag, and then say with React Navigation, and you get the same default template, but with React Navigation. It's fun if you are doing something, or if you hate React Router or Expo Router, sorry, you can just use React Navigation and it's fine.
I love Expo Router and I use it all the time. I can see reasons why people might not like it 100%. So there's this
Okay, tell me.
sentiment of people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Some people say that navigation on web and native is completely different. Like on web, you have URLs and very structured. On native, the routing isn't that linear. Like you can't really do this with URLs. You have sometimes patterns where you open up modals and stuff, and it just doesn't fit the this whole URL thing so good. So I can see that those people would like the traditional approach with I define my screens and my screen components, and then from everywhere I can do whatever I want.
Mhm.
I'm not part of that group. I just say that maybe that's the reason why some people don't like Expo Router. And
I mean, personally, I haven't run into any limitations. I think you can do anything you want, and that's why everyone is like saying, I think Expo Router it's good.
it's maybe just a bit
Maybe.
more complicated for some people. Like when you have groups or shared routes, like it gets a
Mhm.
bit more complicated in your folder structure. But once you understand how it works, and I think it also over the versions like Expo Router 3, 4, 5, 6, it got a lot better. I think I don't know if they implemented this in this version or before. That you don't even need a top index route anymore. Like previously, if you had some authentication, it always gave you an error if you didn't render a slot or something. And now there's like a
Yeah,
virtual initial slot or something like that. I think it was like a
yeah,
footnote in one of the releases.
yeah. Now we have actually protected routes, which actually makes it super easy. You can, in the first layout, you can handle authentication.
Yeah.
That's it. There are a couple of examples that you can check out in the docs or in the examples repo. But yeah, that's actually one more thing that's very easy to implement authentication. And if you are already familiar with file-based routing, if you come from Next.js or one of these web frameworks, I think it shares many things like the groups parentheses. That means in the route that won't be included, right? So if you say parentheses tabs, then you can just say slash home.
Yeah.
And you can have normal folders like slash tabs home. That's totally possible. Dynamic routes. You can pass search parameters as well. So yeah.
It's powerful, yeah, and the only thing I wonder about as well is that Evan once told me, I don't know, I think he said like we're doing 3 versions of Expo Router and then we will rename it or something. I guess
Mm,
he changed his plans. I don't know.
I don't
Do
know.
you know? Is there? We're currently at version 6. Is there like? Is he working on version 7? Will that be the next one?
I don't know. You
Okay.
asked me this last time. I didn't know. I still don't know.
Yeah, I will ask Evan again what his plans are, but I guess he will do something. To wrap it up about Expo Router, one thing I also found pretty cool is that the modals on web now look like on iPad, right? They open
Mhm.
up as this like
Yep.
cool style thing. Was
Thanks to
Herebot?
Hearbot, by the way.
Yeah, I knew it.
Yeah, he's the god. He recently joined Expo. I'm so very happy for that.
Yeah, you hired some really smart people recently. That's so cool to see, like the fruit of their work now make it into the new SDK. So thanks here, but for the cool modals. Everyone check this out on the web. I think previously it just it pushed like a new page, or how did it look on the web?
On the home screen?
If you like open up a modal on the web, it just pushed a new page on the web entirely, right? And not
Mm,
opened this cool modal view. Or did
previously,
it?
no. I think now it's enabled by default
Yeah.
too.
Additionally, in the last version, you had this like form sheet where we have this bottom sheet component, right, which we can open. If you set the presentation of a page to form sheet, then
Hmm.
you had like these points where it snaps like 0.5 and 1, so you can drag it up.
Yeah.
This one, I have a question about that one. I don't know if you know this. It looks awesome. It looks amazing. Whenever I have this in my apps, and you can customize it, and it looks pretty cool. But there are a couple of other packages. Like previously, everyone used Gore Home Bottom Sheet, that
Hmm.
package, and there's also like I think it's called True Native Sheet or something, which is like using really the Swift UI or whatever native component. How native is the bottom sheet that we get with Expo Router? Is that like JavaScript and stuff, or is this also already pretty close to native?
The form sheet actually also comes from React Native screens, which means it's a native primitive. It's fully native. So you
Okay.
get the detents and the behavior when you extend it at the maximum. It will, oops, it will kind of like do the animation where you see the previous screens like being moved.
Yeah, it
Um,
goes slightly to the background or something
yes,
like.
yes, you see like a black part there. And it works with the new liquid glass design. It's now transparent if it's small, and when it is fully extended, it will be background white or depending on what you're doing. I
Okay.
actually have here a quick demo that I'm going to show today in our live stream. If you want, I can show it.
Yeah. We'll
Since it's
include
a
the link.
podcast, yeah.
Yeah. I will include the link as well to the live stream where you did it, so people
But it
can watch
looks
this.
really nice on iOS 26. It's like transparent, and you can see behind it. It's optional, by the way. If you provide a color, it's going to be that color, but otherwise, it's going to be fully native implementation.
Yeah, I wasn't entirely sure all the time because it looked so cool and it felt really good. But then I knew there were these other packages, so I was like,
Mhm.
should I use them at some point, or should I just stick to Expo?
Yeah, personally, I think form sheet, since it's native. Um, I prefer to just create a new screen just to show a bottom sheet, because it's fully native and you can pass the detents depending on what you need. You can show the grabbable little
Yeah,
thing at the top of the screen.
what's it
And if you
called? The
add an,
trigger? No, is it the trigger? No,
I think it's called grabbable stuff.
handle? Maybe handle?
Handle, and you can change the color as well and stuff. Another thing about the form sheet that it actually tells you that it's native is that if you add an input, and let's say that you open it 50% of the screen, add an input, and when the user focuses the input, it's going to expand automatically. So you don't need to handle that. And that's how you know it's a form, native
I
form,
I
at
see.
least for
Yeah, I
iOS.
noticed that.
And it's also native for Android, by the way.
Oh, actually, I think I have never really tested it on Android. Oops, sorry. I will do. Okay, Expo Router 1.6 also, by the way, has this link preview component. So on iOS, when you like do a long press, you get this
Yeah,
view coming out, and you can define that. All of that, I guess, is also native UI and using the native primitives, right?
yeah, exactly. You
Yeah.
can also have a context menu. Apart from previewing the next screen, you can add options like, I don't know, share, or it's similar to X. When you long press on
Hmm.
on a tweet, it will show you options, and then you can navigate to the details of that tweet. So now
It
you can do that fully natively on iOS with Expo Router.
it's really fascinating what's possible. But to be honest, like I rarely use this feature on my iOS device. I should probably try this out more often and see how apps like implement it.
Yeah, I don't use it as much as well, but it's always good to have it. And I think users appreciate those little hidden things. And
It's a bit like
it also
it's a
tells
bit
you.
like the the quick actions, right? Where you do like a
Mhm.
long press on the app icon. I
Yeah,
basically do this maybe once a year, unless I want
yeah.
to delete the app. But it's so cool to implement it.
It's really nice, actually. I was looking into that the other day, and I was thinking, yeah, I never use this. Should I even add it to my app? But then when you learn about something in the application that you use, for example, I learned recently on GitHub, if you long press the icon, it will show you your favorite repos.
Ah,
So I was saying, okay, I always want to go and see how many stars Snap AI has, right? So I can add it to my favorites and then long press and navigate directly to that specific
yeah.
screen. Another one is that you can hide a screen. Let's say that it's a screen that, like an Easter egg, no one knows, but only you can access it if you long press. That little
Ah,
hidden things really provide value to the users. Like,
absolutely.
I'll tell you a secret if you long press, right, or something, or I'll give you a free coupon. You can do things like that.
That's cool. Yeah, I will definitely implement this. Yeah, it's cool that all of this is possible with Expo Router. You also said it middleware for API routes, pretty cool thing.
Hmm.
Um, I have a bunch of other things on my list that we later want to cover. Maybe we can quickly
Yeah.
talk about like these are smaller things and packages. Let's now talk about Expo UI for a moment. So I actually wanted to complain a bit.
Hmm.
um,
Let it out.
yeah, yeah. No, so I really love the idea. When this was first announced in alpha, I was like, this is amazing. I made a video which is actually super popular, and I think people loved the idea mostly as well. There were some that didn't, but I really
Mhm.
like the idea of finally having these components available. The problem is whenever I try it, it's not working for me.
Yeah.
I can do whatever I want. Whenever I go to the documentation, I copy out exactly the code, paste it in. Sometimes the import is wrong. Okay, I can fix this. I reload the app. It's just not showing up. It's frustrating. Like, do you
Yeah.
know why this is happening, or am I
Any
just
specific
like
components that you're talking about?
I I mean the first thing I wanted to was the context menu. So I wanted to not use Zigo anymore and just use like Expo Router. So it has like the context menu. I think it has a trigger, and in the trigger I want to place a button, and then you have the menu definition. But
Hmm.
essentially, I used your code. I even like used all the buttons and stuff, but it just didn't show up. And
Okay.
um, I mean, I
Yeah.
understand at this point this is not working with Expo Go, right? I do have to make a pre-build to run all of that.
Yeah. At the moment, yes, because we're not including Expo UI package in Expo. Although Expo now it's compiled with Xcode 26 and it comes with native tabs. But for Expo UI, yeah, you still need a development build, and also keep in mind it's in beta and there are some bugs that we need to fix. But also we're changing the API a lot, right? For
Like
example,
daily,
we
probably.
for example we recently included a new kind of pattern because we're exploring how to render the components. So the way it works right now is by using a native primitive host view controller, I think it's the name. That so okay, let me zoom out a little bit. React Native uses UI kit to render stuff. And what we want to do is render UI stuff, right? Within our UI kit application, technically for iOS. So SwiftUI, UI kit, sorry, has a component primitive that allows you to host a SwiftUI view within your UI kit application. So we are using that to host a SwiftUI views. And in order to make it work, you need to wrap your SwiftUI code with a host component that you can import from Expo UI. And this host component is the kind of like the div that will allow you to render SwiftUI. If you don't add the host, it will break and it will tell you that you need to wrap the component. Okay, so you wrap it. Now, you cannot style it with Yoga because this is completely different from UIKit and what React Native is. So the host is the only component from Expo UI that you can pass a style, like flex of one or height and width, right? So you pass that, and then after that, you add, let's say, your context menu with the trigger. And once you are inside the host view, you can only import from Expo UI, Swift UI. So maybe that's what happened. But also, again, you need to kind of play around with the width and height, see if a flex will do it. And then when you just add a host, that actually won't take like space in your React Native screen. Let's say that you have a regular button from React Native, a regular text from React Native, and then you add a host with a button from SwiftUI, Expo UI. Okay, the button will be on top of what you had before, like position absolute. So what you can do here is that in the host, we have a property called match contents. And this property match contents basically going to increase the height and width of the host to match, to have a size in the React Native view tree to match the contents layout from SwiftUI. And there are a couple things we might need to improve actually our documentation, but this is a fairly recent change that we added. Now it's required to have the host. But yeah, what is nice about it is that you can have React Native stuff and then SwiftUI stuff in the same screen. Now, on top of that, if you really want to keep things clean and maybe easy to adopt Jetpack Compose once it's out, I would recommend that you create a file with the .ios extension and then create a fallback for the views. I actually made a video on the Expo channel recently showing how to create fallbacks. And yeah, that's
Yeah. Maybe it was a combination of like maybe not updating my pre-build, maybe not correctly using the host, maybe the sizing. So, for example, I had a very specific example. Let's say you have a card, and in that card at the bottom you have like three icons for like share something and the three dots or something. And for like one of those icons, I wanted to have a context menu. So pretty much like one icon should be
okay.
like trigger a context menu and then display something. And like you have already this flex row layout and you only have this one column. And in that column, you have like need to put the host view and then the trigger. And I mean, essentially, I guess it works, but probably like the size of the host element was wrong, and maybe then the trigger was somewhere else. And also,
Maybe.
I can't if I use like host and then have something in there, I can't use a touchable opacity if I'm in that host, right?
No. No,
Okay.
no, it's not recommended because SwiftUI by default adds kind of like styling. If you have you ever coded in SwiftUI? Or
Yeah, a bit.
okay, so if you let's say have a form in SwiftUI and then add a button, right? The form is going to kind of like style the item, right? For you. If you add an image, if you add a couple items in a V stack, for example, it will have them really nicely displayed by default. So if UI makes it hard to create ugly UIs. That's what I'm saying. And when you are using that with Expo as well, you kind of just need to follow the native primitives and personally just try to use the personally I like to just try to use the defaults. Like for example, if you create a form and just drop some sections and components, that will look beautiful because it's doing the default styling. It looks like the settings of your iPhone. But if you try to add like style or something like that, it won't work. If you try to drop in a touchable opacity, so if you I will try to style it, and it might break, it might look off. That's why.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, yeah, I will give it another shot. Actually, this morning in a new app, it works. So I copied out a little example for settings with a switch and an icon, and it looked amazing. And I was like, yeah, that is exactly what I want. So I
cool,
finally got it to work at that point.
nice.
Um, I had a question about this. So maybe this has just grown internally at Expo because when you first released this, I thought
Hmm.
you were doing this like at the same time for SwiftUI and
Hmm.
Jetpack Compose, and this is this Expo UI component, and we can like import. Now you say that I think Expo is saying this on the page. You focus on completely implementing SwiftUI, and Jetpack Compose is planned for the future.
Yeah,
Could it
next
be
release.
potentially be like a bit confusing that now Expo UI is only Swift UI? Wouldn't it make sense to have like a Expo Swift UI package and an Expo Jetpack Compose package instead? If or
Hmm.
is this because you plan in the future to have this somehow unified with like one API?
Yeah, exactly. We are thinking about it, but at the end of the day, if you think about it, it's two different frameworks,
Absolutely.
SwiftUI and Jetpack Compose, and they have different properties, different ways of styling. And actually, Oscar, he commented in one of my tweets, like, what's the plan, right? If you are going deep in the iOS implementation, as deep as having modifiers, which is a SwiftUI only thing, modifiers, animations, and it's a totally valid question. The goal here is to expose all the native capabilities for a specific platform, right? You can always fall back to a touchable opacity on Android in the worst case scenario. But yeah, the goal here is to kind of being able to do whatever you need, create a fully iOS native application using SwiftUI and Expo UI. And then we are going to do the same with Jetpack Compose. And then we are going to see if it's possible to create a unified API. It might be for some very similar components like a list or VStack, HStack. But at the end of the day, if you want to have a context menu, well, a context menu actually is an API that you could share. Um, but if you want to add a specific modifier for iOS only, like a glass effect, right? It wouldn't make sense to have that on
No.
Android as well. But we could have, right, like a unified API that won't do anything on Android, just on iOS. And we are thinking about it. We are thinking about it, and we are hearing devs a lot. The first thing that we see is that, what about Android? Liquid
Hmm.
Glass works on Android? And the answer is no. It's a completely different framework, UI framework. And what's important to me here is that if I want to, my goal building a React Native application is to create a fully native app with native feel, native
Yeah.
capabilities. I want a really nice context menu. I want liquid glass tabs. I want a nice blur effect on the header. I want long press, context menu, speakers, switch, sliders. I want all of that in my app. I'm an iOS user, of course, so I want all of that. I know what's available and I want to use it. The value that comes with Expo UI is that you can import and use all that with just one package, Expo UI. So you don't need to be hunting around. We will take care for you. We'll make sure that it works in your Expo SDK version that you're using. And when you upgrade, we will make it easier for you as well. And we will document breaking changes and things like that. At the moment, it doesn't work on Android because we are focusing on iOS. The reason for that is because the new liquid glass design, of course, we want to support everyone to adopt it. Otherwise, your application is going to look outdated. And I upgraded to iOS 26 beta since day zero, and I'm telling you, next couple days, looking at the old apps, was like, man, this feels old. This feels like this feels old. This doesn't feel right. It's like when you take your old phone from your from your storage and you look at it and think, wow, it looks old. But at the time that I was using it, I didn't
Yeah.
realize. That's how I feel. So being able to just use whatever you need at the moment, this is the value that it provides right now. And of course, we are thinking about Jetpack Compose. We have some really cool ideas. We want to first expose everything so that if you are just developing an Android app, as many devs do actually with React Native, they can fully use Jetpack Compose. And then once we have both APIs, separate both APIs, you can pick whatever you need. Let's say that you prefer something on Android that is fully native, like the context menu or colorful slider or something like that. You can just implement that on Android for Android users. And then on iOS, just use the regular stuff with a fallback for web as well. Because we're always thinking about web as well. And, it depends on what you're doing. Most
Yeah.
developers, um, most developers are targeting Android and iOS, but being able to just use whatever you need from the native platform without bunch of dancing, it's good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited to see the future of Expo UI and yeah, how it finally works out because um,
Mhm.
it sounds like you also still haven't completely figured out how it's looking like in 1, 2, 3 years.
Mhm.
But the progress so far is like amazing. Just like having access to the Swift UI stuff makes it really cool. Android
Mhm.
devs at some point will be happy as well when they have Jetpack Compose.
Yeah, hopefully next
And
release. I mean, we already have an MVP for Jetpack Compose that
cool.
you could actually use, but it's the alpha version. We actually stopped working on it a little bit because we
Yeah, you
wanted
had
to
a couple
focus
of
on
components
the
in there,
iOS.
like in the initial stuff,
Mhm.
but they
And yeah,
work.
yeah, they work. In actually, I made a demo for the Expo SDK 53 release where I showed the Android version as well, and that's
Okay,
how it looks at today.
I see.
Mhm.
Okay, I got a couple of questions about a few other packages as well. Let's
Mhm.
quickly go through them because I think they received some updates. So there is a new glass effect package or
Oh yeah,
module.
that's very
Um,
important that way.
to be honest, I haven't added like haven't installed the iOS beta. I'm waiting for the final version, which I think is dropping like
It's
today.
out, man.
Yeah,
Come
yeah,
on.
yeah. My friend said he updated and he's like, "This is not cool. This is not better. Nothing is better. I don't like it." So I'm a bit skeptic about
Give him
it.
a couple of days.
um, so what is the Expo Glass effect, and what
Mhm.
like I always see these examples where there's like an image or a text, and then I don't know how people do it. There's like a bubble above it. What is exactly happening in those applications at the glass effect? Like, can I touch everywhere? And it's like water everywhere. What's
No, you can think about it like a blur view,
okay?
but what it's actually happening is that iOS Apple on iOS 26 introduced many new APIs, native APIs, and one of them is the glass effect container view that allows you to add the new liquid glass effect to views, custom views. And that's what this component is doing, just exposing that native primitive to allow you to have the glass effect. Let's say that you need it somewhere, you can just use it there. But that's not the important part about this package, actually, in my opinion. The most important part is that we are exposing a variable, a function that is called is liquid glass available. And this is because you shouldn't be just upgrading everything to liquid glass because on iOS 18 and older versions, it's not available and it's going to look different. So you need to make sure that it's going to look good or at least how it used to look, right? So ideally, you won't come to your application and replace everything for liquid glass. You need to be careful and see how it looks on older versions. So you can use this is liquid glass available function and validate. If it's available, then use the glass effect or then use whatever you need, like a context menu or specifically for navigation. It's where I'm using it more because once you compile your project with Xcode 26, you might find that you are using native stuff like React Native screens or Expo Router by default render native header buttons, right? For example.
Mm-hmm.
When you navigate to a screen, you see the back button, you see the save button that you created, maybe using a pressable and then using a text. That will look different, and that will be wrapped with the glass effect by default on Xcode 26. So it might look off on Xcode 26. And you might be thinking, okay, I will just replace for a simple button and it will look nice, right? But then it's going to break on older versions. So you need to validate if it's liquid glass available. Otherwise, don't do it. Yeah, it's extra work, but the API is easy to use. So,
Yeah, I
and
have one
yeah,
application that's actually making a bit of money, so I guess I have to update that soonish. Um,
yeah.
I don't want to. Yeah, I think I don't want to say this loud, but maybe I'm like 2 or 3 Expo SDK versions behind because I didn't update. Like, I hope that won't be a huge problem, but
I mean,
yeah,
if you don't have like a bunch of dependencies, should be fine.
I hope so. Yeah, pray for me. I will try it this week. But I mean, I will first have to install iOS 26 to just get a feeling for like how apps behave
Mhm.
with the new iOS.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I'm just randomly slapping glass effects
Mhm.
on my app, and that probably won't be helpful.
Yeah, I would recommend try to adopt just the native navigation. Make sure that maybe if you want, use the liquid glass tabs and then the material tabs for Android, and check your headers, like your back
Mhm.
button, your
Okay.
confirm or new button that you usually use on the headers. That might look different. And that's, I guess, that the big thing that you need to validate that looks good on older and iOS 26.
Okay. Okay. I got two, 3 more questions before we run out of time. I think last time or at some point in the future, in the past, we talked about Expo Maps. Do you know what's like the current state of Expo Maps? I think it's still in alpha or beta. Is it still like under development? Is someone working on that? Do you have any information about that?
Yeah, we are actively maintaining it. We are monitoring usage, and I'm happy to tell you that many big customers are using it, and they want us to remove the alpha, the alpha warning here. But I would say that right now I consider it a beta because it's being used by so many people. But we also have some feature requests that we are working on. Mostly Alan from the team. He's maintaining it and adding stuff. But definitely we plan to invest more on it. And we know that everyone is interested about it, and I'm excited as well. I tried it once. I created a video. Haven't tried it again, but yeah, I think it's going to be keep improving. Definitely is
Okay.
one of our biggest packages.
Okay, cool. That's good to
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
The other thing is, I don't know if this is beyond what you're involved with. I, I don't want to make this a huge topic, but really have to talk with Evan about this as well. Native Wind. So I don't know. Do you like Native Wind in general? Like using Tailwind in React Native?
I think it's a cool idea. I've seen many developers using it. Personally, I don't use it because I think it's adds like an extra complexity. When I'm creating an app, it usually, in my case, it's just an example app, simple app. So
Yeah,
I want to get it
same.
out as soon as possible. And native win, when you say native win, what I think is that I have to install maybe 2 or 3 dependencies and then add a configuration file. And then it's going to be hard for me to upgrade the SDK. That's what I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so personally, I don't really use it much, but I definitely would consider it because it comes with nice features. Like if you just say dark and then you pass the style for dark mode, that will do
Hmm.
it. You also have predefined animations that will do it as well. It keeps your style, not too crazy, but also personally, I don't like to style much. I like minimalistic UIs. So just big text, and that's it. No background, no border, no shadows most of the time. But if I want a shadow, you can now do that in one line with a style.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I was curious about Native Wind because recently at the React UniverseConf, Jacek
Hmm.
from Unistyles announced that he's like working on this Uniwind package, which is
Oh yeah, I saw that.
like Tailwind, like yeah, native wind, but with like Nitro modules and something in the background. I don't know
Yeah,
exactly, but I mean faster essentially.
Gary told me about it. It seems really nice. It looks like
Absolutely,
he
yeah.
re-implemented style sheet, and that's actually more appealing to me because then you can now pass the dark mode and light mode colors, and it will update automatically on the native side. It won't re-render the component like native wind does today or like style sheet does today. If you change the style, the entire component will re-render. um, so that's very appealing. I
But
haven't
but
tried it,
but but
but
right now
definitely.
your preferred styling is still just like style sheet.
Yeah, style sheet. I guess it depends on what kind of UI you're trying to achieve, right? In the real world, you probably will be giving like a primary color, some style, um, rules to follow about the company that you're working for, dark mode, colors. So having a really nice configuration using native win that prevents everyone from using different colors, different sizes, that's great. Um, and also uni styles, I haven't tried it. Like I said, I haven't built a very scalable applications lately. But also another thing to consider is that big companies, they actually provide you their internal packages with their UIs. So wouldn't worry too much about learning this kind of stuff if you're a beginner. Although I've seen that many beginners go crazy for Tailwind, especially in React Native.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of web developers coming to React Native and probably
That's
just
true.
reusing the knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. Personally, what I like to do is just try to abstract all the components that I know I'm going to use and I know need style. Let's say there are 10 components, and then you can reutilize them with their style. And I don't think it's like a lot of work maintaining it, but it goes depends on the developer, I guess.
You could probably just also tell AI, hey, I have these 10 components, create them with styling, and then
Yeah.
you're done in like 2 minutes with the base component set for your application.
Yeah, I think AI would be good for that. um, or at least to create the configuration theme file, right?
Yeah, right. All right, we're almost close to an hour. We talked about all the big things from SDK 54. There are a couple of like breaking changes and deprecations, but overall, I heard from most people that the update to 54 is actually really easy and takes like 10 minutes. So I would recommend everyone listening or watching to go for the next update. Don't do it like me and sleep on the latest SDKs.
If
I
you
got
do
to
it
do this.
soon, you are more likely to get help as well from us, because we are working on it and we're trying to find bugs. And we're putting extra effort this SDK release to make it easy. We added some extra checks in Expo Doctor. So if you run npx Expo Doctor in your project, you'll get a very useful errors that will help you to upgrade. Like, for example, if you are using the new React Native worklets package introduced on React Native Reanimated 4, we will tell you about it. If you are missing a per dependency of a package that you're using, we will tell you about it. If your node modules are corrupt or have duplicated dependencies, we will tell you about it, and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. By the way, in terms of errors, we haven't even talked about that part. That React Native 0.81, of course, comes with React 19.1 and the owner stack. So if you now encounter any error in your application, the log will actually usually point you really to that error. Where previously it was like a bit obscure where the error happened, in which file, and what exactly caused it.
Yep.
Now, like whenever I see an error, it's like this file, this line, pretty much all the time, which is like, I mean,
Yeah.
debugging was a big problem in React Native for a long time. When you saw the surveys, it was usually first place or second place. So let's
Yeah.
see where it ends up next year.
Yeah. Hopefully, this will improve it a bit. But yeah,
It's also, I think,
TLDR. Errors look better.
I think the cool thing is also in the blog post you said that because of the output in the terminal, it's also easier. Like if you use Cloud Code to run your Expo application, now the output also makes more sense for AI, and AI can better debug your application. So
exactly.
That's really nice feature. All right, Beto, one last thing. You made Snap AI. So what is the next big thing you're working on? Already some cool ideas? Usually like, you just don't have enough time to implement all of them.
You know what? Snap AI was like a weekend project. And I was thinking, okay, I want to build something that is going to be useful. And it's painful to integrate. And I was thinking, I need a simple idea, right? Something that I could do with AI or something about it. So I thought of AI and I thought it was a really good idea. And I built it I think in 1 or 2 days with Cloud Code, mostly vibe coding it. It's very simple, actually.
I never built a CLI tool. Is it hard to build?
It's not hard. There are frameworks. And as long as you know TypeScript, you're good. It's simpler, actually.
I see.
There is a framework for CLI tools that we use on the EAS CLI. It's called Oaklif, OCLIF. Sorry. Oaklif. It's a framework
CLI framework.
Yeah.
All right, gonna put this in the show. Oaklif.io. It's like the worst name for a tool I ever heard.
Yeah. And you can build a CLI tool if you want to automate something for people. You see this a lot, like when you are using components from ShadCN, for example, you run a command like install button. What that is doing is just running a CLI tool that does a git pull from a repo and copies the files in your project. So this CLI tool just calls the API, the OpenAI API for images with a nice prompt about creating an icon, and it just puts it in your assets folder. That's it.
I see. Yeah, maybe I can also do a little tool like that. That would be really cool. Like people using your tool. It's a cool feeling, right?
It's a really cool feeling, and also, I get a little bit of marketing because I added a link to my website every time that someone uses it. So that's nice. And also, you get contributions from the community. I don't have any plans for anything else yet, but I've been getting some requests from people in Snap AI that they want to use different models, different links. So I'm just telling them, okay, open a PR and we'll see. yeah, if I have an idea, I'll tell you.
Shouldn't be too hard, yeah. Yeah, so everyone go contribute to Snap AI, and thanks for joining me, Beto. It was always a pleasure to talk to you. Expo SDK 54 is amazing. Maybe we can have another chat when 55 is out, or next state of React Native. Finally, where can find people more about you and follow you in what you're currently doing?
Yeah, you can follow me at X at Beto Moedano. Maybe you can put it in the description. It's hard to see. I also have a YouTube channel, Code with Beto, that you can look it up. And watch my videos, subscribe. Also in the Expo channel, by the way.
Right, the Expo channel is Beto's unofficial second channel.
Yeah, I own that channel as well.
All right, thanks, Beto. Have a great day and see you next time.
Thanks for having me. It was super fun. And
thanks.
Happy coding, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for joining today's episode. My goal is to share interesting stories and insights into the world of React Native development. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. And on Spotify and Apple, you can leave up to a 5-star review. Because podcasts, and especially niche podcasts like this, are hard to find, subscribing and leaving a review does help me a lot. On top of that, check out my React Native courses on galaxies.dev that cover a variety of topics from getting started to building and publishing your mobile app. Finally, you can share today's episode with a friend or colleague who would enjoy the topic of the show. If you have any questions or ideas for future episodes, find me on X or leave a comment on YouTube. And last but not least, thank you for listening and happy coding. Simon.